Centuries ago, a war was fought, and Rigoria was destroyed. But in a last-ditch effort, there was one elf who buried a little bit of magic.
Don't guarantee anyone will find it.
Let's hope someone does.
One young man
Pops, what is this?
will have to end a war started long before his time.
Can't run!
His spell has taken hold. This is the last possible chance this world may have.
Echoes of Rigoria, now available wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Welcome to Board Gamers Anonymous, the podcast where everyone is welcome at the table, but of course, as always, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
Hey, and this is Anthony.
And this is episode 548, 10 Most Influential Games of the 20th Century. We'd like to thank all our Patreon backers for helping us unlock a brand new episode. Hello, friends. We are back, and after a very long weekend at the Board Game Academic Conference, we're so glad to be back with you here this week on the podcast. How you doing, Anthony?
I am amazing.
Woo!
Had a great time. All the learning, all the history, all of the just so much absorption of information from all the amazing people who presented at the conference.
Yes.
Brain in overload mode. I was like back to work today doing like boring spreadsheet stuff, and I kept like my brain kept like floating away and thinking about all the cool things you could do with board games. I'm like, is there a board game about spreadsheets that's better than spreadsheets? I don't know. Did someone write a paper on that?
I think that's Canterbury.
Oh yeah.
Remember Canterbury? Way back when? Like,
I do remember Canterbury.
Like 12 years ago.
Yep. I have it in the basement somewhere.
Yep, that was a rather spreadsheety type of game out there. So
yeah.
Yes, we are back from Board Game Academic's Journal Conference. This is a conference for the academic journal from Board Game Academics that is all about gamers doing research, scholarship, and practical examinations of tabletop games in their particular field, industry, or just looking at how tabletop games reflect society and how society reflects in tabletop games. And again, it's very interesting, in fact, because a lot of the presentations were about games that we all play. And I think that's really the fun takeaway here.
Right, yeah. And I know a lot of people think like, oh, educational games, it's like a game a professor makes for a certain thing. It's like, no, this is like people taking commercially available games and doing cool things with them and then doing research and then presenting that research and sharing with other people how they can also do that cool thing.
Yeah.
I've talked on the podcast a little bit in the past about how I do that in my classroom. And so it's a lot of that, but not just in the classroom. It's all over.
Yes.
Right. Just, all these different possible ways. So, it's really fun. I mean, we've been doing this for a few years. So like, I've been reading these papers for a long time and we've been doing the publications and you can read a lot about it, but like having a 2-day event at the Strong National Museum of Play, which is just like a mecca of toys and games and play. And then having all these presentations, it was just like a whole nother level. It was very cool.
Yeah, we'll try to get the pictures and the video up soon, and we'll talk about when those are up so that you can check those things out. But just off the top of my head, Anthony, I can remember we talked about Catan. That was brought up. We talked about Cards Against Humanity. There was conversations about Arthurian Legend, Pendragon, and all that kind of fun RPG stuff. Obviously, Dungeons and Dragons was there throughout. Talked about Clinic Deluxe and Dice Hospital. And many, many other games out there, too. And also a lot of fandom and geekdom out there as well. So like Dimension 20 was talked about, which was a lot of fun to have conversations around that as well. So, yeah, from very old, historical, traditional games to like brand new, radically complex kind of games out there that we now love and play. I mean, a lot of great conversations about those things. And again, as always, if for no other reason, It will help you get more games to your table and maybe get those games into places that historically never got a chance. So like, hey, how about where you work? You can play a game there, and these people will tell you how.
Exactly. Yeah. And it sounds silly when you say it like that, but then when you see the presentations, you're like, oh, this is brilliant.
That's right. Your boss is like, what? And you're like, this is a nuclear engineering factory. You're like, yeah, there's a guy there, and he told me how to do the thing with the thing, and therefore here it is. And you're like, oh, gotcha. We're playing games now, buddy. Playing games. Yeah. So, whether you work at a nuclear power plant, or you work at a school system, or you work with clients, or in the community, or you have kid groups out there, there's been a lot of great content. And again, I'm really excited when these papers are finally finished. The presentations were just works in progress, taking feedback, but a lot of really great insights. And again, we'll save that for Board Game Academics. You can go take a look on the website. But again, I think it's so incredibly valuable. I think the presentation from the Crofts, Anthony, about game ages, because a lot of, when you look at a game on BGG, it says like the ages are from like, let's say, 7 to up or 7 and up. And then you go on Amazon and it's like, oh no, you could play this game from like ages 3 and up or something. Like just crazy differential kind of ideas of what allows a game to be marketable to a certain audience. And that's just because Amazon and a lot of companies want to be able to sell their games to more people. But we all know if you drop a game on people and it goes poorly, it's going to be a long time before you get another game into the table or into their hands at the very least.
Right. Yeah. No, that was really interesting. And I think it's specifically about, math standards at different ages in the elementary range. But I think what they were talking about is applicable to anybody at any age.
Yeah.
Like I've seen similar things in my classrooms with 18, 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
So,
cognitive load, man. It's a real thing.
Cognitive load. Yep. People get overwhelmed, not just kids. So, very cool.
Yeah. So thank you all who've checked out the conference, who attended the conference. And we have a lot of other stuff coming up, Anthony. In fact, it's another conference. But this conference is quite different. It's not your typical Board Game Academics journal conference with people writing fancy papers about tabletop games that we all play. It's a new type of conference. It's called Tabletop Scholars, and it's about connecting play with purpose. And really what that means is, again, no matter what profession you're involved with out there in the world, I bet you would really love to squeeze a tabletop game in there to benefit your practice, your interaction with who you work with, whether it's coworkers or, again, directly the population that you're serving, or maybe strategically help you kind of plan things out. Again, there's endless numbers of ways in which tabletop games can benefit you in your workplace and your profession and your study and your personal development and so forth and so on. So throughout the years, 12 plus years now at this point, and throughout all the different educational programs that we've done, like we did 2 presentations last year at PAX Unplugged, and these 2 were packed presentations, and the questions that kept coming up and up again and again was, what game should I play in this scenario with these people? And again, having done this for 12 plus years, having all the research that these researchers have done about tabletop games, listening to all your feedback and comments, especially on the Discord channel as well, we have a pretty good sense of things. That being said, we are not the expert in every field. You are. So this conference is going to be quite different, because what we're going to do is we're going to take nominations about games that work really well in certain professions from professionals like you. So you could say like, hey, I'm a lawyer, and I think this game would be very good to teach, incoming lawyers X, Y, and Z about the court system and so forth and so forth. And then you'll nominate a game. We'll get that game, and then we'll bring it to the conference. And then we'll get, for example, in that kind of scenario, we'll get a bunch of lawyers or people in the legal profession to play those games, all of those games, and see which of those games actually work really well. And then that particular game, if everyone agrees in that particular profession based on their qualifications and their certifications and things like that, that game will be recognized and promoted and receive some sort of accreditation. And then other people will get to know about that game for that particular profession. So, whether you're a K through 12 teacher, a professor in a particular field of interest, anybody in any kind of therapeutic area or medical area. If you're working with different types of groups of people, if you're working with community groups and things like that, if you're looking for games for personal development and raising the consciousness, or again, social justice movements and things like that, we want to have all of those people come together at this conference once again at the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, because we love the location so much. Right now, we're looking at April 17th to 19th. In 2026, that's next year, and actually it's only about 6 months away. So there'll be a lot more details to follow up with this, but this is a conference that really is a convention, because you'll come and the whole time you'll be playing games and you'll be rating games and there'll be a rubric, and then that feedback will get back to the designers and publishers. So instead of just listening to presentations, no presentations, at least not yet, as far as we know. But this is all going to be...
Don't promise what you can't eat, man.
Yeah, so when you get there, you'll play games, and they'll be fun games. These are commercially available games. These are not like educational games necessarily. These are not unpub games. These are games that you can find in the store that you already play. We're trying to find different areas and different populations and different markets for the commercially available games. So it'll be 3 days of tabletop gaming. And everyone was very excited about it. And I think it'd be great if we could have these games up and notified and noticed by so many more people, because that would help a lot of people getting more games to the table, and especially get more people to the table. A lot more inclusive and a lot more accessible.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be exciting.
So that's one of the things that we have coming up, another chance to hang out and play games, because, hey kids, it's professional. So let's go play some games together. At least that's what you could say out loud. And one more thing, because it's coming up in a blink of the eye, PAX Unplugged 2026. That's a thing that's happening.
It is. Yeah, it's in, when you're listening to this, about 5.5 weeks away, which crazy. Time's running out. But yeah, we'll be at PAX Unplugged, as we always are.
Yes.
Because I live here, and if I wasn't there, something's wrong.
And yet again, another conference bowing to Anthony's immense power and fame within the industry. First Origins doing their conference on the same days of his birthday, and now PAX Unplugged coming to Philly because he lives here. So Anthony Chatfield, folks, the biggest man in tabletop gaming.
What I'll say is it's not even that I live here. I moved here, and they stayed here, I guess.
I think you were here when they were here.
No. I moved here way after they started.
Did you?
It's like 5 years.
You were coming out from Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that completely destroys everything I just said. Anthony did not and then the comments, folks. So
maybe I did maybe it's like some time travel nonsense. Anachrony. I went forward and borrowed back some plug, took it to the past, and then I had to repay myself, and that's why I had to move.
All right. You improv people know what I'm talking about. I don't know this guy. He was in the state. Can we say that? Can we say that you were in the state, the same state as the conference?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It counts. I'm going to take it. But we will be at the conference. We're not sure exactly what we'll be doing or what availability as far as that's concerned, but we will be there. So we would love to see you there if you're going there. If you're not, and you have never been to PAX Unplugged, you should go. It's an awesome conference, and it's early this year, and that's also going to cause a lot of problems and issues because the marathon in Philly is happening at the same time, and I think BGG Con is happening at the same time. I think like the first year.
Maybe. It's also the weekend before Thanksgiving, which is a whole thing unto itself, but it'll still be sold out. There'll be a billion people there. It'll be fun.
So he says, so let it be written. Just go.
Yeah.
Just go. It's a good conference. It's a good convention.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Convention. Have fun.
They'll have a lot of fun stuff there, and I think that's usually the reason why people like to go to these conventions anyway.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's everything that's happening in tabletop gaming as far as conferences and conventions. Please go to all the things. That's not impossible whatsoever. But you should do all the things because it's fun.
Yeah. Don't worry about everything else. It's fine. Just go board game.
All right, everybody. So let's get on to our roll for preview. Anthony, let's roll some dice and see how many previews we get up this week.
All right. We've got a big pile of them.
Whoa, nice rolling, man.
Yeah. Nat 20, all the previews this week.
Okay.
And not even a board BGG preview, just like games that we're actually interested in picking up.
These are the games we like?
these are the games we like.
Ooh, I like
I'm
that.
going to get at least 2 of these for
Okay.
sure. One of them I already backed. So,
Oh man,
and I don't back stuff anymore. So that's telling you something.
he's been burned, people. He's been burned.
But Bird, I can't. There's no room in my house anymore. I don't back games anymore. Sort of put them.
I have several conversations ongoing with people about the tariffs and how they're kind of trying to managing it throughout, and they're just like, it's kind of chaotic. So
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So first on the list is a game or expansion, I should say, that I know you're going to get.
yes,
This is the second expansion for Underwater Cities.
I've heard of this game.
Data Era. So this expansion is bringing a whole bunch of new stuff into the game. We've got a new resource type, data disks.
Okay.
Because apparently they saw SETI and they're like, that's fun. Let's do that. And then along with that, we have new buildings, because if you have a new resource, you have to have a new building that produces that resource.
Sure.
Data centers, and a new city type, an information city.
Blue cities, blue bubbles.
Blue bubbles. And so all of that stuff is going to give you new ways to score and new ways to do things.
Mhm.
So there's some new upgraded components going into things as well. And it can be used with either the base game or with the expansion in tow. When you play this, do you play with the expansion components other than the new boards? Because I don't.
I mean, obviously, you play with
the first expansion, I should say.
Yeah, you play with the boards. You have to play with the boards. I'm trying to remember how many. I mean, it's probably about 50-50 when it comes to the extra board. I don't think it's essential to enjoy the game. The double inset boards is obviously essential for fun. But I agree. I don't think it's necessarily you need the other part. This might be something that might be better than that expansion, because it looks like it's built more into the base game instead of being like a side separate board situation.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I don't know. I'm excited about that. I think whatever they add will be, I mean, it's a good game. And the fact that he takes so long to develop these new things it speaks to the potential quality.
Sure.
I would hope.
Well,
and I'm interested to see what the upgraded components look like. I know I saw one thing before, like potentially not having to stack the discs anymore.
Oh, that's great.
Maybe having just like bigger things to show the upgraded farms and stuff.
And this is coming out directly to retail, I believe. This is not a Kickstarter or anything.
Yeah. Delicious Games does not do crowdfunding yet.
Yeah. This is our buddy Vladimir Suchi.
Yes, yeah. So this is looks like an Essen release, which I think the last expansion they had, we ended up getting it right towards the end of the year. So December, January-ish.
Yeah, so it'll be a question if it's unlikely that it'll be at PAX, but it's possible that someone might pick it up for sale. Because we did play Underwater Cities at PAX.
We did.
And I think it came out at Essen that year. But I don't believe that Delicious Games was there. So
no.
And now that the conference is, 2 weeks earlier, give or take? Maybe a little bit more than 2 weeks earlier. It obviously makes it a little more difficult for them to get those games out. Although, things are weird now. So,
no way to know.
No way to know at this point, considering all the things that have happened and all things that... And PAX is growing bigger and bigger and has more prestige. And Gen Con, obviously, and Origins were hit massively by the tariffs. So, I don't know if come November, things will be more stable, but they can't be any less stable than they were in, way back in the summer.
June and August, yeah.
So we might see, actually, it might be weird. We might actually just see a lot of games for sale at PAX. Maybe
hope so.
They finally,
we'll see.
Because again, the other thing was the shipping. There was a lot of shipping issues too, which maybe things finally got printed and shipped, and people are looking at other ways to produce games. So,
right.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this. I love Underwater Cities, one of my favorite games of all time. It's been my number one previously, and anything that actually allows us to play more of it, and especially with upgraded components and the new data discs / bubbles that come into play, I'm down, because I do not get to play this enough, and this looks like a small expansion. So yeah, all good.
Yeah. No, this is one of those games that I was literally thinking not too long ago, a few months ago. It's like, I don't really play this anymore. And then boom, new expansion. Like, Sushi's in my head.
They got you, man. They heard you.
They heard
Every
me.
time you get out, they keep pulling you back.
They pull us back.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, second game we're going to talk about is a new game from the Dietz Foundation, which published Chicago 68, which shipped not too long ago. This is Academia, a game of administrative bloat.
Oh boy.
Designed by Ian Peitlars and John Biggs. So it is a game exactly as it sounds about the administration of a university, which is right in your wheelhouse.
It's 100% it's where I live. It's literally where I live.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting concept for a game. If you, I mean, I think the vast majority of the population, at least here in America, well, I shouldn't say, probably around the world, give or take, has been in some level of higher education or certainly knows about colleges and universities throughout. And it's a very, I think you and I had this conversation, but I think I've had the conversation this past week with a couple other people, because higher ed is a weird thing. It's kind of weirdly corporate, but also a nonprofit. It's educational, but it's really just trying to sell a product. And then every college and university, you would think of it very standardized, like most K through 12 would be, but every college and university has the ability to really specialize with how and what they do as far as majors or sporting teams or research labs. Just a lot of different rationales and reasons and combinations of things as far as what makes up a college or university. So this game lets you do that. This game lets you kind of build up your own type of intercollegiate kind of scheme. And once you build that up, or once you start building towards that particular pathway, now you have to deal with all the administrative stuff that comes along with it, because in order to run academic, student life, research, and all that kind of fun stuff, you need to have administration people to do that. Now, again, if you're not in administration, you hate kind of administration. If you're in administration, you don't. You're like, why? We're doing all the work. You have an idea how many punch paperwork there is here? So again, there's communication, there's building, there's strategic planning, there's hiring. I love all that kind of stuff. I love that kind of food chain mechanic, where it's just like you're building up your particular staff to kind of meet your particular needs. And it's looks really cool and fun. And they're eating the tariffs a little bit here, so you can pick up a copy for about $85. And it's pretty cool. It's a nonprofit organization putting this game out. First time designer putting this game out. They just surpassed their funding goal. It's currently on Kickstarter. It will wrap up on Thursday, October 16th at 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So if you love or dislike anything about higher ed, you will probably like this game. And if you're not into that, but you're like, hey, you know what? I love to run a business or an organization and kind of build it up my own way, this game might also be for you very much. So it's a classic Euro style game.
Yeah, and I will say too, like the quality of production that the Dietz Foundation's been able to do with like a really, really small budget has been really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like part of that maybe being a nonprofit and how they manage the funds, but like the copy of Chicago 68 looks good. So this similarly looks good, at least in the mock-ups. So yeah, excited to see it.
Yeah, and you could also pick up both games on this campaign as well, since you mentioned it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up on the list, we have a Kickstarter that went up today as recording. So this being the day before you're listening to this, and a ridiculously successful campaign considering it's for a box and a rule book.
To be fair, that could be all the difference in the world it needs.
I backed it like the first second I saw
That's
it.
so funny.
Like, oh, I need this so much. It's the Obsession Rules Compendium, Victorian Big Box, and Playmat. Now the Playmat, take or leave it. I don't need a Playmat for this game. But the main thing here, and I think the most important part of this, is the Rules Compendium. The last time we played this game, over the summer, we played it with all the expansions.
Yes, we did.
first with the upstairs, downstairs, and then we threw in characters. And you laid out all the rule books, and they like wrapped around the table, and had all these different references. I think there's 7 or 8 of them, right?
It was a crazy amount, and I had it all nicely set up, and you kept stealing it from me.
I did, yeah, because I needed it. Because the game has a lot of little doodads and what's
It does.
Obsession's amazing, and Dan Halligan, the designer, just one of the greats in the industry, just in terms of like customer service and like care for the people who play his games, his game. But the rulebook, it was never the strong point of this game. And then layering in 4 expansions and a bunch of promos that each have their own rules, and then they all have like cross references, and a lot of those rules update old rules. So if you're playing with the first expansion, well, now you got to tweak these rules. If you're playing with the second edition of the game, you got to tweak these rules. So you end up with like having to constantly look back and forth between all these rule books. And unless you play the game constantly, which, let's face it, nobody plays any game constantly, right? We're always cycling through the hotness. You don't remember any of the rules, so you have to like constantly reference stuff, and it really slows it down. So he has gone out and he's hired people, not doing it himself, to build a single rules compendium that is streamlined and easy to reference, and has like reference points for all the different cards and tiles, and it's like the one thing the game needs.
Sure.
And now we have it. At the same time, you can't fit everything in the box, even the second edition box with that second expansion. So there's a Victorian box which will hold everything. It's not a crazy, stupid big box. It's slightly bigger than the one we have, which is slightly bigger than the first edition box.
Sure.
So it has grown over time, but it's really just big enough to hold everything, which is nice. Because especially if you want to keep all the nice, fancy like house boxes that they give us, they don't fit into the second edition box at all. So, fast forward, and we have basically the kind of final patches for this game. Dan's come out time and again and said, I'm not making any new content. The characters expansion was the end. This is just like putting a bow on it and giving everybody the last couple pieces that they asked for. And you can tell how much people wanted that, because it's the backing on it's up to $175,000 from over 3,000 backers in like 24 hours. So lots of people want a box in a rulebook.
Yes, but again, I think for the vast majority of us, if not all of us out here, if the rulebook's not good, it's a nightmare. Like there's no way around it. And the rulebook wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. But again, having so many rulebooks and having so many overlapping rules and errata as far as, and again, he went out of his way with the expansions. Really, like the expansions were made to kind of like address some of the issues people have, because you play the base game and there's just some glaring elements where, I don't know, if you don't get the monuments, they're worth a lot of points. And I played this game a lot, and I'm just like, okay, wait for the monument. Oh, there's 10 points. And 10 points is a lot in the game. It's just like...
Right. But then one of the expansions nerfs
it does.
It makes them worth nothing.
It makes them worth low point thing. But they also give you a benefit, which is like they up your reputation once every turn. But again, it evens that game out. And then the same thing with the negative character cards. The expansion allows you to dump a lot of those things. So if you get unlucky with the draw, now you have a way to dump those characters. So again, there's just a lot of tweaks. And if you play like on Board Game Arena, for example, it allows you to kind of pick and choose what you want to do as far as tweaks are concerned. But again, you have to keep all those rules in your head of like, if it's this, then it's that. And if, again, a lot of that kind of thing, like the Useful Man allows you to get a tile that you really want to put into the market, so like, again, really appreciative of somebody who goes out of their way to kind of like think about what the people are having challenges with and seeks to address it. So yeah, wonderful job. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's a really good thing. I'm glad it exists. And if you have Obsession, there's like 5 or 6 different ways to back this, depending on what you already have and what you need. But go check it out. And the pricing on it is always great. Like if you have the stuff and you need the box and the rule book and the playmat, it's like $59. So
sure,
seems great for all that.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, and then the last one we wanted to take a look at is a new Stonemaier game that the company announced in a newsletter just a few days ago. This is co-designed by Jamie Stegmaier, which is surprising to me because I know Jamie was working on Vantage for so long.
Sure.
But there's another one floating around on here, co-designed with Pete Wissinger, and Pete Wissinger has only designed one other game that has not come out yet. It comes out next year.
Okay.
So this is the first. This will be their first game released. And it is a superhero trick-taking and tableau building game.
Gotcha.
So called Origin Story. So you have kind of this. I'm not really sold on the artwork from the cover, at least. It's kind of like this watercolor.
It's
wishy-washy.
It's really interesting considering the fact that this game is branded as you're a superhero. And then, again, when you think superhero, again, you can go pretty far out with it, but it doesn't evoke these specific images. I don't think the art's bad. I'm surprised at the art here as far as that's concerned. It seems, like you said, it seems very different. It seems almost like, it seems more along the lines of like a Dungeons and Dragons or role play game kind of situation. You know, like
the
other worlds,
artist on this,
other
Clementine,
universe. Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah, Clementine Campardu did the artwork for Wormspan.
Okay,
which
I could see that.
Kind of also has that watercolory look,
yes.
But that one's even a little bit more concrete. This is very like open border, like the flowing lines kind of. But it looks nice. It's interesting. It's different.
Yes,
if that's what you want.
Yes,
it's not just like stereotypical comic book.
Very much
layout.
so.
It's different. So it's a competitive tableau building trick-taking game. So you play through every round. You play through a chapter in the development of your character, and you get a new card that you place in your tableau that kind of changes what you're doing. So it's trick-taking, but you're also like developing abilities and kind of growing, and working through like the backstory of your character, pulling together gadgets and allies and all that stuff. So it has kind of like a CCG style, not CCG, LCG maybe approach in terms of like what you're trying to accomplish, but at the same time has the trick-taking component to it. I'm interested in it. I can't quite wrap my head around what the game is doing based on the information they've released so far, but a good trick-taking game with a lot of asymmetry in it is always interesting. It's hard to do, I think, but if they can pull it off in a way that's engaging, and they say it's a 45-minute game, relatively quick. This is a smaller box release from Stonemaier, so I have my eye on it. We shall see.
Yeah, it reminded me of Role Player, as far as like you're creating a character from scratch, and there's a backstory, and there's different elements that come into play that, obviously you're not rolling dice here, you're doing the trick taking here, but it's also that kind of like development that you usually would do in an RPG, but now in a board game format that's pretty quick and straightforward. So, and basically that's a tableau builder as well, because you're building up your particular character and class and such. Yeah.
No, it's pretty cool. So it's up for pre-order to next week, I think he said.
Sure.
And they'll also have it at Essen for all the Europeans who are traveling to Essen for the big show. And we'll see. Probably we'll get a chance to play it at PAX, and we'll let y'all know what we think.
Sounds fun.
It is fun. Woo, games.
All right.
All right. So there you go. 4 games that are currently up for crowdfunding or coming up soon that we're keeping an eye on.
All right. Now up to roll for review. Anthony, roll that dice, and hopefully we don't get a bad roll.
All right. I'm rolling.
Oh, no.
1.
Critical fail. No! Yeah, we just had a critical hit, now a critical fail?
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess no rolls.
Actual one there.
No rolls for review for this week.
Nope, I guess not.
All right.
We're lucky that the podcast is still recording, folks.
We're doing fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's good.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We did a thing.
Hard swings. That's what life is. It's all good.
If this shuts off like abruptly, like a Sopranos final episode, you know why.
Yeah. You're listening, they're like, 10 most influential.
There you go.
Not even any music. What happened?
Something would have happened there. But All right, it's going to affect our roll for review, but we'll be back next week with games at the table, hopefully, if the rolls allow.
Yeah.
All right, Anthony, that leads us to our feature review, the 10 most influential games of the 20th century.
Yeah, so we were at, as we mentioned, the Strong National Museum of Play over the weekend.
But do they have
and
tabletop games there?
They do have tabletop
Great.
games there, and we saw a lot of very amazing things.
We did.
We saw one of the very first production boards of the Darrow version of Monopoly.
Yes.
The one you know and play now, the round one. We saw a ridiculously cool early first edition box set of Dungeons and Dragons that one of the friends of Gary Gygax, who was a librarian, had played with the students. It notes and everything in it. We saw early copies of Civilization. We saw early copies of just so many amazing games. And we're thinking, like, man, these games all have so much influence on everything that we do now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pull together 10 of the most influential games from the 20th century, which is when mass market gaming and hobby gaming became a thing. Obviously, it didn't invent board games. It's been around for centuries, but mass production of those games in a way that's accessible to everybody became more common. What are 10 games that kind of we're still feeling the effects of? So that's what we have for you today.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, a lot of wondrous, beautiful first edition copies, a lot of prototype copies. And again, tabletop games is such a big part of not just American culture, but world culture, and also a wondrous and serious reflection of who we are as human beings. It reflects society, and society is reflected in those games that we play. So if you take a little bit of a deeper look, and then you get a sense of like, wow, these games made a big impact. And again, people are writing papers on this, but again, I think it's really interesting to know what games that you have in your collection that actually do have or have had that kind of incredible effect on the world in which we live.
Right. Yeah, no, it's fun. Like, there's a nerdy part, the academic part of a brain. It's just like, oh my gosh, the history and everything that's gone on here. But also just kind of fun to look at something and be like, that thing that this game does is the reason that this game that I love exists.
Yes.
50 years later. And that's just a cool
Yeah, these games are foundational for pretty much everything that we play now in a lot of ways. And also these are games that you have, again, it's a weird conversation piece. Like if somebody comes to your house and it's like, oh, so like, what do you collect? Or, what kind of knickknacks or something? You're like, oh, I have these games. You're like, oh, okay, you have games you could play. And that's fine. You're like, no. These games are, part of Americana. These games are part of our economic system, our social system.
Right.
This game, gives us a sense of history and purpose and meaning, and just again, endless numbers of things that these games do. So just, you don't have to like stuff them in your closet. Sometimes they have a place on your coffee table, for example. It's a good conversation piece.
Yeah. All right. So let's dive into the 10 most influential games of the 20th century, according to BGA, because this is almost certainly a list that other people would have additions to.
Yeah, but we have a certain quality about us that we can say in reflection of the museum and the people out there too.
Yeah. No, all of these make a very strong case for having a ton of influence on what we play today. So in no particular order, because how do you measure influence over 100 years? But in no particular order, first up we have the game that kind of kicked off the modern hobby gaming craze. And it sold millions of copies. People still play it today. I remember in college playing like goofy line drawn versions on the internet. Catan, formerly Settlers of Catan, released back in 1995. That has designed by Klaus Huber, and we make jokes about Catan now. Some of us do.
Sure.
It's not it's not a basic game necessarily, but we've developed and moved beyond it in a lot of ways. But the game does a lot of things that are more accessible and interesting and engaging than games that were generally that easy to find at that point in time. People were playing Monopoly and Uno, and all of a sudden Catan came along as a a viable alternative to those games at a comparable length and played the same number of players and was adult friendly, in the sense that they had kind of strategic depth in the game without it being overwhelming. And it's become one of the most popular board games of all time, let alone of the last 30 years. And I think you can see a little bit of Catan DNA in almost any Euro game, at least for the 10, 15 years after it came out.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, for certain. Such an incredibly big impact across the board.
Next up, we have Magic the Gathering, which, duh, right? It invented a whole genre of collectible card games. This is one of those ones we saw prototypes of at the Strong National Museum of Play. They had some of the original hand-drawn cards that Richard Garfield had made when he was developing the game in the Hall of Fame, because this is a game that entered the Hall of Fame a few years ago.
Catan as well. They had the original cards that were kind of drawn up and cut up.
Right.
We saw that I think they saw that upstairs in that special suite.
It wasn't on display. It was in the library as part of the archive tour. But it's funny to see any game in that state. Magic the Gathering in particular, because it's specifically known for its artwork.
Yes.
Just see Richard Garfield's little doodles.
Yeah, it's hand-cut cards and little, like you said, doodles and random pictures to kind of give people a sense of things.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't overstate the impact of Magic the Gathering. Obviously, it's a juggernaut in and of itself. It's single-handedly holding up Hasbro as a company the last 5-10 years. But it also invented CCGs and just collectible, constructible card games in general, which is many, many genres, whether you're looking at purely the collectible, cost-heavy games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, or constructed deck games like LCGs, or any of a dozen other types of games that we have. It's build a deck, play that deck against somebody else, and see who comes out on top. Sounds like the most basic thing in the world, but before Magic the Gathering, it didn't really exist.
Yeah, and I mean it's almost single-handedly responsible for holding up friendly local game stores.
Yeah,
and I mean when we talk about organized play, it's really because of Magic the Gathering that even it really exists in the real world out there. Because any game store, I mean, with very few exceptions, God bless if you can do it without, but like almost every game store out there has Magic the Gathering and other CGGs because of that organized gameplay format that Richard Garfield. And again, it's been around forever, seemingly, at least modern times, of course, and it has not seemed to fail. I mean, the algorithm, I can't imagine what they have to go through for the play testing just not to have broken combo after broken combo in a game. Because
to be fair, there are a bunch of broken combos and they just remove them over time.
Yeah, but that's also part of the brilliance of Magic the Gathering is that they address that. It's something that they can do, and again, that wasn't something that was done previously. So I immensely just overwhelmed and appreciative of just everything about that game beyond the game itself. It's just its impact on society and the world is, just can't be overstated.
No, definitely not. Yeah, 32 years, they've done a lot.
Yeah, Garfield knows his games, man.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, another game that is also currently published by Wizards of the Coast, although did not originate with them, was purchased and started being distributed by them in 1997, is Dungeons and Dragons.
I've heard of this.
You've heard of this? Yeah, me too. So developed back in 1974 by TSR, Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. Dungeons and Dragons is, I mean, it didn't, we can say it invented modern role-playing. There's a lot of elements here that kind of developed out of, traditional wargaming and miniature game systems and stuff like that.
Sure.
Where people would, work on military formations rather than like creating their own character. The whole idea of like a DM and a referee and storytelling as gameplay and everything that kind of goes into this was revolutionary to the point that it scared people.
Yes.
Right. Like the Satanic Panic, obviously, of the 80s was a whole thing, but even outside of that, people were turned off by this, both in the industry and out of the industry. And yet it became such an important part of so many people's lives, and it's endured for so long that the TTRPG aspect of tabletop gaming is enormous,
Mhm.
makes a ton of money, is creating rock stars and
Mhm.
selling out Madison Square Gardens as people do actual play on camera. It's crazy how much it's grown, but it's not surprising when you think about like how impactful this can be for somebody on a personal level. Just
Yeah.
to have that kind of connection with others when you go through a campaign. Um, any game that utilizes RPG mechanics at a tabletop level, video games, most video games, that have RPG mechanics are based on or can trace back to Dungeons and Dragons. Just one of the most influential games of all time, let alone tabletop games.
Yeah, I think you mentioned obviously its impact for therapeutic needs and educational needs and for creating communities is just it can't be matched. And like you said, Dimension 20 and Critical Role and selling out just massive places and the live plays and all the stuff that's come after it's been enormous. And again, it's one of those weird kind of things where it's really just a seemingly very simple set of rules that obviously are incredibly insanely complex that allow the game to have a format, to have a structure, and that structure oddly or uniquely is this very ethereal state of like not being a structure. So it's a structure
Right.
without being a structure, which allows for really intense, wondrous theater of the mind gameplay. And it's open and available for everybody. And again, obviously, if not every RPG out there, owns some sort of allegiance or credit to the original Dungeons and Dragons. And the numbers are out there. We talked about this at the conference too, but it's also my area of expertise now too, because it saved a lot of people during the pandemic, and it really
Yeah.
just kind of helps keep us going. It makes us understand that the world is bigger than what we tend to see. So, and then everything, right? Stranger Things, and all the other kind of media stuff that's born out of it as well.
Yeah. No, it's hard to throw anything at something in pop culture and not hit some element that's been influenced by D&D.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, we have a game that I think both you and I played a lot when we were younger. Risk.
I love myself some
So,
Risk.
I also love me some Risk. I haven't played it in forever though, because it takes too long. But this game was developed originally by a French film director, Albert Lamorisse, in 1957, bought by Parker Brothers, released again in 1959 as Risk. First as the Continental game, and then the game of global domination. And it is one of the most influential games from a perspective like wargaming, because it took war games had existed for sure, but it made it accessible and easy to understand, simplifying the maps, simplifying the movement. It didn't make it shorter necessarily, but it simplified everything to the point that you could play this with children, you could play it in dorm rooms, you could play it over a meal. And then you have other games that kind of developed out of that, things like Axis and Allies, really anything with dice where you're fighting each other, can trace back to Risk. Not to mention the 47 versions of Risk we have now as well. Many of them very good.
Yeah, there's been a lot of variations of this game, but the classic game stands true. And a lot of game designers, actually even this past weekend, talked about how Risk is their favorite game of all time. And that was kind of surprising to hear, but it also does make a lot of sense that it's foundational for so much that's out there. It's an area control game, right? I mean,
yeah.
And I remember loving Risk and playing Risk even in college. And then when I got into like the tabletop industry, as far as the hobby games are concerned, really hardcore, it was like, I love Risk. What plays like Risk? It's like, oh, Small World plays like Risk. And then other area control games play like Risk, and then just kind of branched out from there. But again, it's something that's out there in pop culture. Almost everyone I know has played Risk or knows about Risk. And it's very simple and accessible to kind of play into, low cognitive load. And, it's a lot of fun conversations and strategies like with Catan, right? It's a conversational piece, right? Oh, you should always start with Australia, but what if you can't get Australia? Oh, you're going to go into Asia? You'll be there forever. You'll never conquer Asia. So,
right.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And yeah, a lot of influence. All right, next one up here is what some people would label one of the first Euro games. It certainly feels like it. Acquire from the late great Sid Sackson, first published in 1964. Saxon he developed this based on a game he played when he was a kid called Lotto, and it just kind of developed over time and became what we now know as Acquire, which is a game about purchasing and kind of merging together stocks in these hotels and trying to have the most value out of as you merge these different hotel chains together. If you consider when the game came out, before we had almost any of the modern games that developed around things like stock-based ownership or management of resources or just Euro-based mechanics and economics, this kind of did all of that. Whether everything that came after could directly trace back to this or not, a lot of it can, right? Acquire is also back in the 60s, 3M made a lot of board games in their bookshelf series. This is the only one that's still being published, I believe. Just because it is that great of a game. It's been republished dozens of times. And I think the current version is the Avalon Hill one under the Hasbro label. But if you've never played this, you definitely should. It's, we talk about old games. Sometimes you're like, oh, it doesn't hold up, but a lot of things are developed from this. Acquire is still very good.
Yeah, and we were lucky enough again to see the prototype of Acquire at the museum. Yeah, which was amazing to see as far as like the kind of early scribbles about putting that game together. And it's another one of those games where it's had a lot of different re-implementations, just a little art here, a little pictures here, but it's one of the most dynamic kind of games about there, and it really teaches you a lot. I remember playing this game for the first time, and I was just like, yeah, I guess I'll play it. And then the mechanics are so engaging, and it's so wonderfully aggressive in what it does. And you just come out of that game, you're like, whew, I did the thing. Wow.
Right.
That was fantastic. Wow. That was a roller coaster. So,
right. Yeah. All right. Next up, we have a game that people don't even necessarily directly associate with this word anymore because so many other games have repurposed it. But Francis Tresham's 1980 Civilization. This is a game that has influenced, again, similar to D&D, not just board games, but video games over the course of the last 45 years.
Genre-defying.
It just absolutely, you think like, oh, Civilization, I wonder what that was based on. Like, no, this was like the first big Civilization game. And so Advanced Civilization came after that, which just kind of refined the rules a little bit. But this is considered, it's one of the first 4X games. It's one of the first grand strategy games. I believe it's the first game that had a technology tree, just in general.
Yes.
So it did so many amazing things that nobody had ever seen before. And it was like 8 hours long, which is crazy for a game developed so long ago. And it's how many games named Civilization have come out since.
Yes.
And, Sid Meier's directly pointed to the board games as like an influence for building the video game, which is also widely influential. Francis Tresham, it's not on our list, but Francis Tresham also developed 1829 and 1830, which kind of developed the 18XX genre.
Sure.
Not quite to the same level of like popularity and influence overall in gaming as like Civilization games, but still up there. Just very forward thinking. Tresham.
Absolutely. And again, I think the games we're talking about here are influential throughout society, even above and beyond people who play games. Right. So it's quite an accomplishment throughout, and it also helps us, rethink how we think about civilization, human civilization and anthropology and the development of the different ages. And I don't believe that you can really ever have that kind of understanding without playing a game that's based on civilization building. It was like, oh, and then this happened, and then they developed the hammer, and then they developed this metal, and you're just like, okay, so things happen, on rails sequentially, and you're just like, not necessarily. And like, let me show you how a civilization could throw things together based upon the resources they have and where they're located on a map and stuff like that. So, yeah, very cool.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. All right, another one which I don't think a lot of people think of as being like this deeply impactful, influential game, but a lot of game designers have pointed to it as being influential to them.
Sure.
Is Cosmic Encounter.
Yeah, Cosmic Encounter is great because I think I think it does a couple of game mechanic things that are just genre breaking, but beyond that, I think to this day I have not come across a game that has done as much with the individual asymmetric game powers. Like, this is a game about alien races. And being a big sci-fi fan, you're like, oh, okay, I understand that, right? This one has weird ears. This one has a weird nose. This one's from a blue planet. This one's from an orange planet. And it's just like, Cosmic Encounter, like, really seriously considers science fiction and what is really alien about aliens. And then it gives you that kind of really dynamic, interesting depiction. And by playing that game, or even being a sci-fi fan, I'm constantly coming back to the different alien races and their interactions and their win conditions and things of that nature to kind of help frame when I talk about, or when I think about science fiction. I almost constantly go back to Cosmic Encounter, because if you Star Wars and Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica, like, they're just not very different. They're all kind of generic humanoids that do and want the same pretty much thing. But Cosmic Encounter, that's real science fiction. There's universes in there, and it's just such a brilliant idea and concept, and the gameplay is great.
Yeah, no, it's funny, like, oh, this is interesting and different and fun, but like, if you consider it came out in 1977,
oh yeah,
and like, this is something a lot of games have now, the asymmetry and like the player powers and all that, but this was like one of the first games to do that. I think it was, if not the first game commercially to do that, where you're like, here's core rules, but every character is different.
And sincerely different, because you play that game and it could end in the first round and you never did anything, or it could last for hours, just again, because of the interactions.
Right, yeah, exactly. And like, Steve Jackson cited it in his designs. Richard Garfield cited it in Magic the Gathering as having an impact. Like, it's a very impactful, like, all of your favorite designers played this when they were young, right?
That's wonderful.
That's the influence it's had. Next up, we have a game that almost certainly no one remembers, but it's got a mechanic that we all remember, and that's Keydom. So Keydom is a game that came out and was the first to utilize the worker placement mechanic. Now, there's some discussion back and forth with whether it was Keydom or whether it was Bus. They both came out around the same time. But from what I could find, it seems that generally people agree that it was Keydom that did it first. This was 1998. Now, it's not considered like the best game from the Key series.
Yes.
There's a bunch of games in the Key series. Many of them are amazing.
Keyflower, for example.
Keyflower, Keyside, Keeper. Lots of good games there. Keydom is not up there, but it is the first worker placement game, which has become one of the most iconic mechanics in tabletop gaming that's carried forward for nearly 30 years. A lot of the modern mechanics we think of are more recent. Like, we didn't put Dominion on the list because that game came out in 2008 or 2010. We didn't put the Pandemic on the list. That was 2008. So this was a game that kind of changed the game in a lot of ways in terms of mechanics and how we think about the way we take actions, and how actions are both a limited resource for the player, but also for everybody combined.
Yeah, and just generally the idea that previously when you took an action, you just put a pawn out there or you put a marker out there. And now the concept of like just way society typically works is there are workers and they're doing things. Like, you actually have people involved in this kind of dynamic. And I think that's also very important for society to remember that there are people doing things out there in the world.
Yep.
So very cool.
All right. Next up, we have the game that you're probably waiting for because, of course, it has to be on the list. It's Monopoly. Gotta mention Monopoly. So Monopoly has a tricky history, right? It was originally published in 1935, developed in 1933. Charles Darrow. However, the original version upon which Monopoly was based is the Landlord's game, which was created way back in 1903 by Lizzie Magie. And that game had two versions. The first of which was a way to kind of critique and explore the economic system in which a monopoly can develop, right? And to kind of further explore ideas about taxation and how people interact with this idea of like property ownership. It had two sets of rules, one with the tax and one without. The one without, which is just more directly like get all the stuff and make everybody else go broke, is the version that Darrow purchased and or stole. It's not. There's different ways that that's presented. And then Parker Brothers eventually published the game 32 years after the Landlord's game was developed. The game from that point forward has had an immense impact. Like, it's not just that Monopoly is almost everybody's first board game. Even now, like, I talk to my students, I'm like, what games have you played? And they're like, Monopoly and Uno, right? Like, it's still the case, almost 100 years later. But it's also the first game that really became an iconic part of Americana. Like, we all recognize the logo and the main character of the game, right? All those, everybody wants to be the dog or the car, right? Everybody knows the tokens. We know what, like, do not pass go, collect, go straight to jail or collect $200 or boardwalk. Like, all those things have meaning outside of the game. Like, they have social currency that makes the game just part of the American fabric and really just generally globally. And not to mention the 6 million versions of the game that developed since. Now, you don't have to like the game. I don't particularly like the game, but it has a tremendous amount of influence on just people's access to games, when they were able to play it, when it was, how the game was, how games were sold to the public in general. This is kind of the precursor to so much of that.
Yeah, again, there's an endless amount of stuff to say about Monopoly. And like you said, that early kind of development and purchase and some tremendously painful, challenging issues around the Landlord game. And certainly its impact and its promotion of capitalism, and also, again, another idea of like being so iconic. And it's also getting a movie at some point pretty soon. They've already greenlit it.
Yay.
And I think Margaret Robbie is serving as a producer for it or something like that. But even just like, it's the game people refer to all the time when they talk about tabletop games. Like, I've told the story before where I was like at a Panera and we were playing Viticulture, and this family walked by and the little boy goes, "Hey mom, what are they playing?" And the mom said, "Italian Monopoly." And I was just like, it was so funny. I didn't correct her or anything. I'm like, yeah, no, I guess I see that. I see what you did there. So yeah, I mean, if you have to refer to any other game in reference in some level to Monopoly, or like I literally have a sweatshirt that says, "No, it's not like Monopoly."
Right.
Then I think obviously it's iconic in endless numbers of ways, both inside the industry and outside the industry.
Yeah, no, I think that's that's really funny. Italian Monopoly.
Yeah, roll and move and bankrupt your friends and family. I guess that's the thing. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, it's everybody knows it. I think that alone makes it influential.
Yeah.
All right, the last one we're going to talk about here is, it's a bit of an oddball, but I think an important one from specifically within the wargaming community. Advanced Squad Leader. So this game was first published in 1985. However, it has been continuously published since then. It is a 2-player only, 6+ hour borderline simulation game, war game, and it has developed over the years to include, very complex rule books, obviously, like just kind of diving further and further down the rabbit hole in terms of different content. But it also has multiple different, approaches to the game, right? There's different war theaters, there's different rule books, there's different components and supplements that have been released over the course of many, many years. Like hundreds and hundreds of pages. Like, to be good at ASL is to be good at probably any game, because you've just developed everything
Sure.
in this very complex system. So why is it so influential? Well, it is, war games, while not a huge part of the hobby, are an important area where a lot of new mechanics and ideas are developed. It's where some of the more interesting approaches to simulations of real world systems happen. You get things like the Coin series, you get things like Twilight Struggle, you get things like Mr. President, where like you can't fully simulate anything in a game, but like trying to break down those systems and show what they represent. And this is one of the first games that really did that in a way that in the mass market, and it's still available. And if you really want to play this game and really want to delve into it, there's so much there to pick apart. There's, obviously a lot of really deep wargaming systems, but this is the one that kind of takes the cake and has done so much in the space. And a lot of wargamers are deeply influenced by the game.
Yeah, no, it's such a professional accomplishment that it can't be understated. And so much of what's called serious games, where like these games are used and developed for hardcore professional use, not like what we've been talking about previously, like commercial games that we try to use in professional practice. So war games, right? Like it's such a big thing, and this is one of the major achievements as far as tabletop gaming is concerned. And it's just a fantastic game above and beyond that, on top of everything else. So if you have not played it, it's one of those games. If you have not played it, you should certainly play it, even if you're not a war gamer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone, there you go. We're going way back when, and bringing you the 10 most influential games of the 20th century. Hopefully these games are part of your collection. If not, pick them up. And if you have not played them, you owe it to yourself, because the time and place that they hold is just essential for everything that we do, whether it's in tabletop gaming or just society in general. Because once you play the games and you really get into it a little bit, then you could see the strings. You could see all the connections and how they work together with, again, both industry and outside of industry. It's a really fun time. And again, if you'd like to see more of this great stuff happening, check out the Strong National Museum of Play, because so many of these games, if not all of these games, are available and present, and so many of them actually have detailed history and notes and prototypes there, and it's just going to blow your mind. All right, everyone, until next time, this is Chris.
Hey, and this is Anthony.
And we'll save you all a seat at the table. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Centuries ago, a war was fought, and Rigoria was destroyed. But in a last-ditch effort, there was one elf who buried a little bit of magic.
I guarantee anyone will find it.
Let's hope someone does.
One young man
Pops, what is this?
will have to end a war started long before his time.
Can't run!
His spell has taken hold. This is the last possible chance this world may have.
Echoes of Rigoria, now available wherever you listen to your podcasts.